to Nick Sibicky's Top 25 Tabletop Board Games. My name is Nick Sibicky, and here's my friend...
Pat Burnett.
There he goes.
I'm here as a color commentator. I'm also here as the beard.
See, we were trying to decide if he should introduce himself or not, and at the last minute, we just left it up to chance. So it was good. You went for it.
Yeah.
And so you're the beard and Pat Burnett.
That's correct. And I'm here to talk with Nick about these wonderful games as well as drink some beer. So here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so before we actually get to the 25 game list, we do have to go over a bunch of honorable mentions. I do have 2 game shelves that are just filled with dozens of games and played dozens more than that, but a lot of good games. Not all can make the top 25, so I just want to talk about a few that didn't. And to start us off, actually, on this honorable mention, this is a great game, Ink and Gold. This is actually one of the few games on this list that Pat actually hasn't played yet, but we're going to change that soon enough. Very simple party game, up to 8 players. Here's why you need to know about it. You can teach it in about 15 seconds. Basically, every round, everyone just picks a card. Are they in or are they out of the round? People who are in go further into the temple, get more gems, but also have a further chance of getting rocks smashed in their head or eaten by a giant mummy or something bad happening to them.
Sounds exciting, Nick.
So it's basically push your luck. So we'll throw that over there. Another great honorable mention is Alien Frontiers. This is a dice worker placement game. We're going to be using that term worker placement a number of times during this video. Basically, you have some sort of token, some sort of worker, peasant. In this case, it's actually dice that represent spaceships. Use that worker to go and take some sort of resource and prevent someone else from getting it. This, again, is one of the few space-themed worker placement games. And what's particularly cool about this one is you roll your dice first, and depending what you get in the individual die number will determine which space it can actually go on the board. So it's a really cool little, almost puzzly feeling to that worker placement idea in space. So again, excellent game. If I had a top 26, which would probably be top 26. But we'll see some other games that do some things similarly, which I like just a hair more.
And I would say about this game, it's a long between plays because each person has an opportunity to think. So make sure that you're drinking beer when you're playing Alien Frontiers.
Yeah, that's really the one reason why it didn't make the top 25 is because, unfortunately, there is a lot of downtime between turns. So it is a little bit on the slower side compared to some of these other ones. One more honorable mention here that I'll show you. Puerto Rico. This was actually for a long time the #1 game on BoardGameGeek.com. This is one of the big Euro games to make it, I would say, just become really popular in the United States. I think it still stood the test of time. It's still a great game. Maybe I've just played too much of it and I don't feel like playing it anymore. Maybe that's just it. But certainly also an awesome game. And if you don't know about it, you should definitely learn about it. And then you can get burned out on it too.
That's right.
2 other little honorable mentions here. There's another game, actually I don't own it because everyone I know has it already. And that's actually Blocus, which is a abstract puzzle game. We'll put up some screenshots here for you to look at of people playing Blocus. I got it from my parents one year. They love it. Again, really simple, really, if you're playing a game with non-gamers who might be gamers, this is a really good game to get them involved. You've played a lot of Blocus, right, Pat?
Yeah, I have, and so have my nephews and my niece with me. So it's a fun family game, but it's quite challenging if you're playing with challenging people.
Absolutely, and I have it. I have it on the phone. Do you have it on your phone? Or? No, they have a good iPad version too, and Android. Blocus is everywhere. Just one more I want to talk about. Actually, we're not going to talk about a whole lot because we're going to talk about other games by this designer later on the list. But one more honorable mention is called Ra. It's an auction bidding game. Takes place like in an Egyptian desert themed. Just really cool how it works. Check it out. Number 25 is, want to do a drum roll? Zombie Dice.
So much fun.
Probably one of the most underwhelming games as far as the box that it comes in. And a lot of the serious gamers out there I don't think are actually going to consider even putting this anywhere in their top 100 list because the game is so small and so quick and it's over before you know it. But that's the exact same reasons why it makes my list. Yeah. You've played some Zombie Dice.
Oh yeah, it's fast, it's fun, and it's a good space filler between games if you've got a few people playing multiple games. And
I just got 2 brains.
2 brains.
I'm winning.
There it is.
I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.
That's right.
But yeah, super simple to teach. Again, it's basically another push your luck kind of game. Just keep rolling dice, eat brains, don't get shot by humans. If you have 5 minutes in between games and you and one other person are waiting for a game to finish, this is just a perfect game to bring out and play with. So, and surprisingly, I still have people who will come over and request to play this. Like people who have come to a game night before at our place, and they'll come back the next time and say, "Hey, you know that dice game? Can we play that again?" And I'm like, "You mean this one?" So,
Zombie dice.
There we go. 24.
This is a great game to play with about 7 people, I'd say.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. I actually bought this for Christmas one year for my nieces and nephews. And I would say that was probably a little bit too gamey for them. I don't think they were ready quite yet for zombie hunters, or shadow hunters, sorry.
That's the beer talking.
Yes. But I look forward to going back and playing with them. But yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, so if you don't know what Shadowhunters is, basically everyone gets a secret identity.
That's right.
And there's 2 teams. There's the Shadows and then the Hunters.
That's right.
It says it right there in the title. And no one knows who anybody is, but the Shadows are trying to kill the Hunters, and the Hunters are trying to kill the Shadows. And you do that by going around, getting hermit cards, learning people's identities one by one, collecting various items and weapons, and then trying to figure out, who's on your team before your enemies do.
That's right.
So again, probably I would say a sweet spot for this game is probably around 6 or 7. More, It gets slow. Less, the teams don't feel big enough to really matter.
Yeah.
So Shadowhunters, 24. All right, so number 23, yes, is I totally cheated, and I actually picked 2 games from my 23 spot. So technically, you could call this the top 26 board game list, but functionally, mechanically, they're really the same game. And these 2 games are Apples to Apples and Cards Against Humanity.
Otherwise known as Dirty Apple to Apples.
Well, extra dirties in some cases, yeah, depending who you play with. But these 2 games, first of all, Apples to Apples is one of the most ubiquitous games in today's market. You can go to Toys R Us and Walmart and Target and find copies of Apples to Apples. The thing is just everywhere. And Apples to Apples is very simple. Basically, you have one person pick a card, and it's usually some sort of adjective, and the rest of the players at the table have to find an item, a noun, that best fits that adjective. And Cards Against Humanity works the exact same way for most part, except it also mostly has adult-themed cards, or definitely things not appropriate for young children. So, they're really the same game. It's just depending what sort of age group you want to play with and what sort of level of appropriateness. I think they're great party games. You can play them for basically as long as you want. I mean, there's no really set time limit. Basically, you just play and laugh and have a good time. Beer, again, is always helpful.
Always helpful.
When you play these games. But if you're looking for a good party game to play with kids, Apples to Apples is just wonderful. What's your experience with Apples to Apples like?
Yeah, I think Mom bought it for the family for some type of game night, and she loves it. The kids love it. My nephews continuously ask to play again and again when we're over at the house. So.
Yeah, it has a lot of replay value. I mean, there's a lot of cards in that box, so
That's right.
You got to go through them a couple times before you feel done, I think.
That's right. All right.
Number 22.
22.
Number 22, I think, is another one of these games that Pat, you either played once or you haven't played at all.
El Grande.
I think you might have. The one time you played this at the college.
Let me look at the backside there.
We'll give him a look at the backside first and see. So.
Oh, El Grande. Yes, I have played it one time. I actually enjoyed El Grande.
This is you can see a map of Spain here, and this is a relative one of the older games on the list. As far as like the new Euro style of board game, but it's really one of the first big Euro games. But more importantly for this game,
It's been drinking.
it's my glass upside down. Oh,
There we
that's
go.
good. That's good. See, that's very helpful. So we pay you the big bucks for it.
Pretty sure.
El Grande, this is one of the quintessential area control games. Area control basically means all players have some sort of resource, usually like tokens or armies, whatever, something. And through some sort of mechanic, you put these all out on the board, and wherever they end up, whoever has the most in a given spot will control that thing. And that's really what this game is all about. It also has a really cool little bidding mechanic to determine how many dudes you get to put out at a time, in addition to your other abilities. But It's just the quintessential area control game. If you like games that involve a little bit of politics and a big board where everyone's just fighting for control, I mean, it's not really direct fighting. It's just, I am going to add more pieces there. I'm going to move yours around subtly, right? No one ever really dies per se,
right?
But just these subtle manipulations of that. This is the game, that grandfathered that whole sort of that genre, I guess.
Yeah. Number 21, King of Tokyo. And this one goes out to my lovely bride. I've been married for 2 weeks and a day now.
Congratulations, Pat.
Thank you. And she came over and loved this game. She's more of a gamer that likes to play, dominoes and other types of games that are a little more interactive. And this game was definitely interactive, but then there's some risks you can take, as well as just kind of some fun graphics and layouts. And
you're a giant non-Godzilla character for copyright purposes, right? And
sure.
You're trying to bust your way into Tokyo and basically take out the other players.
And there's die rolling, and whether you can score damage against whoever's in Tokyo or outside of Tokyo and things like that.
Yeah. So it's really a dice game first and foremost, with a little, I guess, a very small area control mechanic, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's just fun. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to the game itself. Really, just a couple dice and a stack of cards. But you're just some monster just trying to break his way into Tokyo, and plays fast, plays fun.
Absolutely.
All right, so number 20 is Telestrations. In a phrase, you could summarize this game as being Pictionary crossed with telephone. That right there is pretty awesome. And in this game, I'm actually going to open this box, because we haven't opened any boxes yet. We should do that.
Sure.
That's a good idea. And as we get to better and better games, we should examine them. Everyone gets a little sketch pad here, and it's dry erase. So you can use it over and over and over again. And basically you have some sort of item, secret item, secret word, and you write it down, and then you pass it to the left, and the next person has to draw it. And then they pass it to the left, and the next person has to guess what the drawing was, and then they pass it to the left, and the next person has to sketch what the guess was, and then you pass it to the left, and the next person has to draw what the... I confuse myself. You get the idea, right? So you draw, you guess, you draw, you guess, you draw, you guess, and it just goes around the table. And most of the time I've played this, I've actually played without scoring, although you can score points the more guesses you get correct, essentially. It's a great party game if you like Pictionary and want a more, I'll say, I don't want to call it a gamey experience, but you want to sit down and have everyone drawing instantly. I mean, it's a lot more action. It's just there's just more going on. Pictionary is just like one person drawing and everyone just yelling out, "It's Bozo the Clown! It's Siberia!" Right? This is everyone drawing intently and everyone guessing at the same time. So you're just gonna play a lot more game in this box than you would with normal Pictionary. It's just a great party game. So, number 20, Telestrations.
You sold me. I'm out to buy Telestrations. And number 19, Dominant Species. It's a fun game, and the whole point is to survive and thrive in the ever-changing landscape.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really a game about evolution, though. I'd say, I mean, is how do you evolve your animal to become most well adapted to this board? And it is a worker placement game. We've seen a couple of those already, but I'll say there's one major difference from this game from most of the other games in worker placement games in this stack we have over here, and it's that this is one of the few worker placement games where I care incredibly, just so much about what you do on your turn. Because everyone's worker is actually going to change the environment, change what food is available, change where I can go, change where the glacier is. What you do on your turn changes the whole biosphere that's going to affect my species. So most of the game, I'm just sitting there like this, just hoping you don't kill me, right? With something, wipe out my species, just on the edge of my seat, just waiting around for my turn. But it doesn't feel like waiting. I'm just very involved in what you're doing on your turn.
Absolutely, because then as I place my piece down, Nick now has to go with 3 or 4 different moves, or 3 or 4 different options.
Well, you're changing the Earth on your turn, right? I mean, every time you change the Earth, I'm just going, oh, my dude is screwed, and I have to go eat Pat before he eats me. It's just very engrossing for a worker placement game.
Yeah.
Number 19, Dominant Species. Number 18 is Seven Wonders. Now, I think Pat and I are going to have slightly differing views on this game, but I'll tell you first why it's on my list, and certainly why it should be on yours too. Number one, just in the base game alone, it handles up to 7 people. And it's another one of these games where all the players take simultaneous action. So there is almost no downtime in this game. You're not waiting for anyone to think about what they're trying to do, unless you have the one really slow player that just has to ask a lot of questions and whatever. But there's not a lot of downtime, and basically you're building a civilization. It goes extraordinarily fast. There's a lot of different strategies, and the deck is somewhat randomized every time you play it, so it's always a slightly different game. It's a little bit abstract for a lot of people, and there are a lot of symbols and icons, so teaching it the first time is a train wreck. This is the worst part about this game, is just trying to get a new player to learn it, because the first time is just going to be a traumatic experience. There is almost no text; it's all symbols. So until you learn what the symbols do, you're kind of lost among hopelessness. But once you do, man, it's a game with a lot of action.
It's a fast game, but so is solitaire. And I feel like a lot of times, because you're only impacting the person to your left and your right in a 6-player game, I don't even know what the other 3 people are doing. I'm looking at left, I'm looking right, and I don't really care about the other side of the board.
This is true.
It's a fast-paced game. You can win, you can lose, and you can think you're winning, and you can be dominated by the other side of the table. But because you're moving so fast, you're not really paying attention to here, nor can you really change what's happening over there. So if you get behind, it's kind of hard to stop the player across from you. If you're playing a 3-player game, it's a different story. If you're playing a 6-player game,
it's true. Yeah, where a lot of games are highly interactive between players. You're really only interacting to the person sitting to your right and the person sitting to your left. So I can see that as a valid criticism. And
yeah.
Maybe that's what prevents it from going higher up on the list. But if you like a lot of action and want to build a little empire,
it's not a bad game. It's just something that when I'm playing a game, I want to be interactive with all the people.
Yeah. Number 17 is Wits and Wagers. 2 thumbs up from Pat right here.
Yeah.
I have a lot of party games on this list. I think there are more party games towards the higher numbered end of this list than the real 1, 2, 3 kind of spots. I think party games are really important to have, because you can't play the 4-hour strategy game with everybody, right? And you want a satisfying game experience. So for me, party games make up a very healthy part of this top 25 board game list. And as far as trivia party games go, Wits and Wagers, be it the Family Edition or the original Classic Edition, are just the cream of the crop. I mean, how do you get a better trivia game than this, where everyone feels like they're participating? You are not just guessing the correct answer to these trivia questions, but you're also betting on whose answer you think is best, essentially.
Yeah. So if someone clearly feels very smug and arrogant about their answer, and you, all right, well, I'll bet on your answer then, and you can actually then score almost as many points as them without knowing anything about that. And so it's a fun bluffing game. If you really are confident, then maybe you actually, I'm hesitant about this, and you're for sure, and then you put your players down on the number that you think is correct. So it's a fun game, and there's some strategy towards the end. If you just want to make sure, if you're in the lead, you can kind of see where people are putting their players down and
bet accordingly.
Yeah. So it's a fun game. It's not just knowledge; it's also strategy as far as where you put your tokens.
It's a trivia game where you don't actually have to know the trivia.
That's right. Absolutely not.
It helps, but you don't have to.
That's right.
Is there a better trivia game? Have you played a better trivia game?
No. I mean, I do like to gamble a little bit every now and again, and this is kind of like gambling, but safe with the family.
That's right. So, Wits and Wagers. Number 16 is. Oh, you want a drink? Take a drink.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Yeah,
let's drink.
Yeah. I was going to drink your number 16.
Well, that's good, because actually I don't have my number 16. Number 16 is Agricola. Ooh. And I think this is the highest game on my list that I actually don't own. Partially it's because I know too many people who own it.
I own it.
So there's one, and Matt owns it, and Cheryl owns it, and Jesse owns it. I mean, this is the whole, like all my best board gaming friends, they all already own it. So I was just too late to the party to buy it. Otherwise, if they didn't own it, I probably would have. Certainly by now. But in this game I'm going to tell you why it's awesome. You get to be a farmer. Not some rich, corporate, gigantic farmer. You get to be a little homestead farmer, maybe a medieval Renaissance kind of time period, and you're just striving to get by. You're just barely making it as a farmer. And that may sound boring, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the game is so thematic. It's a worker placement game. You get your little, and your workers are actually like your kids, basically. You put them to work in the fields.
Sure.
And you can send them to one place, and they'll go and collect a carrot for you, or come back with a sheep or something, or they'll go do something for you. But it does feel like you're farming, which is really weird in a board game. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. You get to develop your landscape. You have to get the wood to build your fences, and you have to one of your workers then has to go build the fences. So your board gets to be developed, and because obviously if one player takes the wood, then you might have to go for the clay. So your idea of building the fences now has changed, and maybe you go and build a fireplace that turn instead. And so you really are working to build the best farm you can, even though you might have had the original design might have been different. So you really have to go with what's available to you rather than what your true vision was.
Yeah, you have to be flexible. Yeah, if you're going to build your farm one way, and I've played with people like that, right? The people will say, "I'm going to be a sheep farmer. That's just what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
And they just farm sheep, and they have a good time doing it, of course, but they don't win, right? I mean, you have to be flexible. So number 16, Agricola. Number 15 is Contract Bridge, and this is a standard deck of cards. It is a standard card game. I don't think a lot of other gamers in particular actually have a whole lot of love for bridge anymore. Basically, the people who are playing a lot of bridge are all over 60 years old. Maybe have their grandparents taught it otherwise. But here's the thing about Contract Bridge. So a couple things you should know. First of all, it's a trick-taking game where everyone plays a card, and basically the highest card wins the trick. Okay, so there's that. But Bridge does a little bit more than that, where it has this bidding system, where you and your partner, remember, this is a 4-player game for 2 pairs of people, actually sort of develop a secret language with each other. And not only do you develop this during the bidding phase, you also develop this actually during the play of the cards. And when you discard a 5 of spades on something, that means something different than a 4 of spades. And so in other words, this game isn't just a game, it's actually a language. It's a much more involved system of a game than almost any other card game that there is. And in my opinion, if you're going to play one card game for the rest of your life, it's going to be this one. I mean, this is the one that you can play, there are reasons why people who are 70 years old still playing this game, because there's still new situations, new things to learn. And it's a highly competitive game. There are a lot of people who are really good at it. Again, the younger generation who tends to be more into these board games and Euro games, tabletop games, hasn't really discovered it yet. But man, it's a hell of a game.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's one of those things that's hard to break into it.
Absolutely.
If you got 4 people playing already, they don't want to teach the new person, right? So I think so you older people, you're watching. We know you've got nothing better to do today. Teach me Contact Bridge.
Contract Bridge.
Contract.
Contact
Bridge would hurt. I'm pretty sure I could beat the 70-year-olds with Contact Bridge.
Number 14 is another classic worker placement Euro game called Caylus. Some would actually call this sort of like not necessarily the mother of all worker placement games, but sort of like the first worker placement game that sort of perfected it. The game is highly strategic, a lot of interesting choices. Sort of the theme is somewhat bland. You're all sort of these Renaissance, entrepreneurs trying to help get contracts from the king and build the king's castle up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the king is building his castle in a place where there isn't anything else. It's just like in the middle of the countryside. So you also have to build up the town, so you can hire people to go help you build the castle. And you're sort of just building up this whole economy in this straight up worker placement game. The one thing that really sets this game apart, though, is after you put your worker down, you don't necessarily get what you put it on. If you send a guy to go and go to the peddler and sell some food for money, that's not necessarily going to happen, because there's this token in the game called the provost that'll move around and basically will tell people to stop working. And if your worker ends up, by where the provost is, he's not going to do his work. So it was always sort of a gamble with how much stuff do you want to try to get now versus stuff you're sure to get. It's a really delicate balancing game, but a lot of subtlety. If you want a Euro game that's near perfect, especially a worker placement one. Caylus is a one-stop shop. Now, Pat had some experience watching some top players play.
But online, of course, there's the online version, and it was clear that there was a strategy, and that I won't tell you just in case you don't know, but there's a strategy that you want to get to a certain position on the board, and once you're there, if you can control that, you're more likely to win than not. And so for me, part of this game was, of any game, is that you're trying to play it and you're trying to find that little part of the game that gives you the edge over the other people before anyone else figures it out. And for me, I really enjoyed playing this game, but once I found the Easter egg, if you will,
it's a dominant strategy.
The dominant strategy. Yeah. Once you have that dominant strategy and it's shared with you, then I feel like I've lost that ability to explore the game and to find those things. So while I loved it while I was playing it, once that dominant strategy was very apparent to me, I have not yet played it after that. So
well, I will say that you are selling the dominant strategy short. I think the dominant strategy has a lot of subtle steps to it. Like it's not just like do one thing, you win the game.
Right.
It's like do these 50 things, and this is the best thing you can do, right? But it's still
the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
So once you know it's the best thing you can do, if someone else doesn't know that, then you know that, and you can get to those 50 steps easier.
Yeah.
But if you both know those steps, then I can see that there could be more of a challenge there.
Yeah. But still a great game. I mean,
absolutely. If you have not played it, play it 100%. It is a fabulous game.
All right, number 13 is
Hansa Teutonica. I love it, and I'm terrible at it. It's a wonderful game, this map, and you're trying to become the mayor.
Here's the thing. You don't even know the theme. You know why you don't know the theme?
Yeah.
Because the theme is terrible.
Yeah, the theme is terrible.
The theme is fun. No one knows what they're doing in this game. In theory, the rule book says you're trying to build these trade routes in between these cities. It does not feel like that whatsoever. Do you feel like you're building trade routes?
No.
Are you ever trading anything?
No.
No, there's none of that. You have to play it in a more abstract manner. There is a map that looks cool.
Yeah.
And you do get to place your little merchants down on these roads.
Sure. I'm actually trying to get cubes off of my board is what I'm trying to do.
It's like you're trying to say, get all the merchants on and then take them off, right? The game doesn't make any sense from a thematic standpoint. But from a gameplay standpoint, it's great, right? You're looking at these roads and you're trying to put your workers there to block other people. And maybe you're trying to get people to force you off of their road because they have to pay you extra money when they do. There's a lot of different ways you can upgrade your merchants, right? Through getting more of them at a time, to getting more actions, and just choosing how you want to actually develop your own little economy is very rich, very rewarding, and it's got a little political element too. Like don't take him off the road. He's blocking for everybody, right? There's a little bit of that kind of back and forth discussion, and it's a surprisingly abstract political game, I would say.
Yeah. I think it's abstract all around, but it flows nice. You're involved the whole time, watching what everyone else is doing because it impacts your next move tremendously. It's not a fast-paced game and it's not a slow-paced game. I think it runs very smooth.
Yeah, and I'll just add one other thing. This game I think is actually really influential for a lot of other games. Games like Eclipse, for instance, where we're going to see, you have a player map where you're taking cubes on and off and putting on the map to try to control areas. I mean, Eclipse, which is I think it's ranked number 3 or 4 right now on Board Game Geek. Maybe it's 5. It's probably 5. It's up there anyway, like number 5 game of all time. A lot of that really comes right out of this game. So if you want to play the original game, without all the space and the starships and the fighting, play Hansa Teutonica.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah! All right, here we are. Number 12, Lost Cities. It's a completely involved game where you have cards that you're trying to go find 5 lost cities. And as you start each expedition, you might get some backers, and they're called...
agreements? No.
Investors.
Yeah, but they have a name for them in the game.
Yeah, I know.
What are they called?
Damn it.
I don't know. The handshakes. Get some handshakes.
Get some handshakes.
There's a handshake on the card.
There's a handshake.
Well, whatever it is.
And I just played it this weekend at a Fish concert. Yeah.
You're playing Lost Cities at a Fish concert?
I was.
That's a good time.
Yeah. Well, before the concert, not during the concert. But people love this game if they're not Euro players, or if they're not board game players. If their background is gin rummy and things like this, it goes extremely well. But there's definitely multiple levels of play, and you get better and better each time.
Yeah, and I think you said it. I think if you're a gin rummy player and you like that game, and you want a new experience, if that's your mindset, if that's the type of game you like, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where you got to end up.
Yeah.
It sort of you're not playing gin rummy, you're not trying to make sets or runs, so to speak, but you are trying to get your cards somewhat in order. And get a lot of them out there, and that's in that card management that Jim Runny has. That's all in here. This is a Reinhard Knizia game, and Reinhard Knizia is probably one of the most famous abstract Euro designers. And if you know about Reinhard Knizia games, his actually probably most famous one in the United States is actually called Ingenious, which you could buy at Walmart for a while. I'm not sure if they still sell it in Target and a lot of big box stores. This is my favorite Reinhard Knizia game. It's only 2 players, but it's fast, it's involved, and there's a lot of surprising subtleties and a lot of places where you can actually take risks in this game, just for a simple little card game. Yeah, really interesting game. 2 players, fast, easy, fun. Lost Cities.
Lost Cities.
Number 11 is Ticket to Ride. How much Ticket to Ride have you played, Pat?
Okay, I've got to be honest with Ticket to Ride. I've actually played it probably twice as a board game, and then a lot by myself on the iPad version.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing for me, Lost Cities, too. Actually, I played more than twice in person, probably only, less than 10, I'm sure. And the rest is just all on iPad.
Yeah. iPad, I liked it. I didn't enjoy Ticket to Ride so much in person. I felt that... Yeah.
See, I had the exact opposite opinion. I'd much prefer to play it in person. But anyway, go on.
And I would say because after playing other games where you're much more interactive and communicative with other players, that this is, again, one of those more you're making individual decisions. Other people can block you or start down a different path. But I still felt like I was playing my own game with other people there playing their own game with a little bit of interaction.
Oh, see, I don't feel that way at all. Yeah. So especially if you play a big full game with 4 or 5 players, and in Ticket to Ride you get some secret routes that you're trying to connect, some secret train routes you're trying to connect in the game, and you don't know who anyone else's is, or whose anyone else's routes is. I don't know what you get the idea. Everyone's secret routes, and you're trying to basically build these train routes, but there's only so many places to build train routes. So it's very, here's the real, at least in the American-based version of the game, a lot of strategy comes into play because there's an advantage to just sort of building up your resources and not building any routes for as long as possible. But if you do that, someone else might take the best routes that you want. So it's this constant balancing act between knowing when to go out on the board and when to just stay back and let your resources build up for a while. It is a train game. There's a lot of other train games out there, but this is by far the most successful one. This has actually sold millions of copies at this point. If you are at all a hobby board game player, I'm sure you've already heard of this game. This thing is everywhere. There's a million expansions for it. I've got a couple more over there. My favorite one is actually the Africa expansion. So if you already play Ticket to Ride and you want to expand your Ticket to Ride, I highly recommend that one. But it's so simple. I mean, you can teach this to your kids. I played this with literally ages, I think 6 to 80 on this game.
All right, so I think I'll give it a try with some experienced board gamers. Maybe you're
playing with novices who didn't know what they're doing. Then you don't feel like there's any strategy because you just draw some cards and you put out a train. But if you know what you're doing, it's a surprisingly competitive game too, especially with some of the expansions. So, Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride.
All right, we are at the top 10, starting with number 10, X-Wing Miniatures. This is a game from the Star Wars universe. This is actually published by one of the biggest game manufacturers. This is by Fantasy Flight. They make a lot of games, most of which I really don't like all that much. And the reason is because, and a lot of people love them. I mean, I'm definitely on a different side of the fence from most people, I think, about Fantasy Flight, because a lot of their games tend to rely on a lot of text and a lot of reading and a lot of story and a lot of theme. If you like a lot of theme, you want to feel immersed in like something, some grand epic movie or something, play a lot of Fantasy Flight games. I mean, this is the company that will do that for you. I tend to like games that are really clean and fast and interactive. So this is the one Fantasy Flight game to make my list. But anyway, besides that, what you do in X-Wing Miniatures is you and your opponent build a squad out of ships from Star Wars, basically. So here we go. We got a Millennium Falcon right there. You can see that. and we got a TIE interceptor. And they go on these little cool sticks, and you sort of just fly them around the board trying to shoot each other. And there's a little bit of subtlety as far as how you build your squad and different actions you can take with different ships. But that's basically it. It's how good of a pilot you are, on a tabletop. With Star Wars, I mean, what's not to like about that? Yeah. You've only played this game once with only a small squadron, right? But
that's right. I broke the seal for Nick. Was it this one?
Yeah. So he bought this for my birthday.
That's right. And then now, then he went crazy. So
this is my Star Wars X-wing box, and it's got loaded with ships in here. We got more X-wings and A-wings and TIE interceptors underneath here. We got some like the Boba Fett ship and a whole bunch of TIE fighters, and now you can have these huge epic battles with a million ships flying around. That is awesome. Yeah. So you haven't played the million ships flying around.
I haven't played the awesome yet, but I was intrigued with just the basic X-wing miniature game. So
if you like war games, right? I mean, if you like fighting, most of the games we've talked about haven't had any killing or shooting. Maybe Dominant Species a little bit, or King of Tokyo, right, where you're actually attacking your opponents. But if you're looking for a more direct confrontational experience, most of the games we've been recommending haven't been that.
That's right.
This is one of those, though.
That's right. Sure.
This is where you're just trying to blow up the other guy as quickly and as most efficiently and effectively as you can. But it's a lot of fun. Right now, it's number 10 on my list, and I'm trying to remain a little bit unbiased. I've been playing a lot of this game over the last couple weeks. And I didn't want to change my list too much before I made this video, but right now, mentally in my head, it's more like a number 5 game, or maybe even higher. So it's a really great gaming experience. One major downside to this gamepad. Do you know what it is?
2 players.
Okay, that's 2 downsides. Only 2. Okay. Usually, the base game is really only 2 players. The other downside, can you guess?
No, I can't guess.
You can't guess? Your wallet.
Oh, yeah, right. That. Somehow these Disney wants their money. What can we say?
Yeah, now it's Disney, right? Yeah. It is Star Wars. It will cost you a little bit. So, number 10, Star Wars X-Wing miniatures. Number 9 is Glory to Rome.
Glory to Rome!
Which is actually what you say during the game, actually. That's most appropriate, because there's one part in the game where you do sort of attack the other players, and if they can't be attacked, they say,
Glory to Rome!
There you go. This is probably one of the best card games out there. If you want to play, I'll say a card game for smart people. Am I offensive if I'm offending people if I say that? Like, you have to be smart to play this game?
Yeah.
Okay, a card game for smart people.
Yeah.
This is the one. And what you're going to do in Glory to Rome is essentially are you working for the Caesar or just building up Rome on your own? I guess everything's for the glory of Rome.
Yeah,
right?
everything's the glory.
So you're all building up these buildings in Rome, and every time you build a new building, it'll open up some new ability for you to use essentially. And at the end of the game, once Rome is complete, in some respect, I guess, whenever you build enough buildings to end the game, whoever basically has the most points, mostly from buildings as well as selling materials. You can also sell stuff as well. Whereas the most points between those two things is the winner. It's a really subtle card game.
Yeah, but I think I think I have to show you a card to really fully appreciate
what's so cool about
it. Because each card isn't just it's not a card. It represents multiple.
Is it 6 things? Is it each card can do one of 6 things in the game? I think.
So it's if you build it as a building,
that's one. And that's the only time you actually read the text as the card here. I'll see if I can find this is the Bath card from Glory to Rome. I'll see if I can find a picture of this online and throw it up, or I'll find some other card. But the text of the card is what the building will actually do, what you play it.
Yep.
And you want to go through the rest here?
And then on the side here, this is actually
if you play it as an action?
Play it as an action, yeah, but it's also if you're a
follower?
No, what the hell's the
patron?
Patron.
Okay.
So
you can the left hand side. The name of the card is
the left hand side of the card is
a person you can hire. Or it's also an action you can take yourself.
That's correct. Right, by playing it
down, right.
And it's also a material, so down
on the bottom right, which is brick. It's also brick.
And then it's also, there's values to it, to whether it's either in your vault or whether I guess that would just
It's
be
really in your vault. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you sell it for money, it's also worth. You use this card as 2 money. So that's a lot of things for one card, Pat.
That's right. And at different points in the game, if whether it's in your hand or whether it's down in the pool, you can only use it for certain aspects of it. So it really, even though you might have it in your hand, it's how do you get it to the vault or how do you get it into your as a worker for you. So there's plenty of opportunities for you.
Yeah, I want to point out one new thing about the new version. This is one of the few games I think that comes with a flowchart.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, because you can use these cards so many ways, which makes the game super fascinating to just sort of study and play around and learn the subtleties of. It does come with this chart that shows you how every card can be used in all these different ways and how they all are related, all in one diagram, which, for some of you out there is probably an instant turnoff, but I guess some of you probably watching this video are kind of like, whoa, you kind of want to go check that out. All right, anyway, number 9, Glory to Rome.
Glory to Rome!
Number 8, Power Grid.
Power Grid.
What do you like about this game, Pat?
I love the dynamic version.
And notice he doesn't like it, he loves it. I love it too. I mean, this is my number 8 game.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. There's so many things that I like about it, but I love the bidding aspect. I love that.
So let me interject. So in this game, you bid on power plants. And you get better and better power plants, and you just try to power more and more cities. And basically, the person who can power the most cities is the winner. You can play on a U.S. map, you can play on a Germany map all in this box. They have a million expansions for it. You can power France or Brazil, whatever country you want to power. You just go do it. So yeah, bidding is awesome, right? Bidding on these power plants.
Yeah, and so being the leader, you actually then everything is reversed order. So
if you're winning, you have the worst. You're going to get the worst power plant. You're going to get the worst stuff. So you don't really want to be winning this game at any point except the end, right?
That's right. It's how far ahead do you let that leader get? Where do you put yourself in that position, and then when do you make hopefully that leap at the very end to power the most and to end the game? And it's wonderful. It's
got a lot of economics in it too, right? Because there's the whole resource track, right? Where if no one's buying oil gets cheaper and cheaper in price, right? And if everyone buys the oil, it goes way expensive, right? So actually, it's one of the few games that does like almost like an open market system and simulates that really well as part of it. This is really just a brilliant economic game, from auctioning out power plants to bidding on resources. If you're a business, I think if you have a business mindset, like if you have a little bit of that entrepreneur spirit in you, I mean, this is your game, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
So number 8, Power Grid.
Power Grid.
Number 7 is Le Havre, and we're not really sure how to say that because we don't speak. Do you speak French?
Je parle pour le français, really. Le Havre.
There you go. That's
more of just a little French. But this game is a wonderful, I guess, resource management, really.
Well, it's worker placement, right?
Worker placement, resource management. I say resource management because when do you gather the resource that you might need in the future?
Yeah, so you're all working in a harbor, and these goods are coming on ships. And you can basically choose, what goods you want that day, right? And you just add them to your pile and use them to build stuff.
Gather resources, or place your worker for your worker to do something. And I think so. That's why there's that two different aspects. And obviously, when you place your worker, you better have the resources available that in your pile to make sure that you can actually do something with it.
Yeah, and this is as far as the rest of the list is concerned, I think I'm going to spoil it just a little bit. As far as your Euro games, and we haven't really defined Euro game yet,
right?
But we said that term several times. A Euro game, these European style board games, where there's really no fighting. It's really about resource management, collection, and building up of resources. This game is for me one of the pinnacles of Euro games. I mean, this is one of the finest examples of it, where you have lots of different resources, lots of variation, and I think one of the things that players feel like when they're playing this game is like all these boats are coming in with all these goods. It doesn't feel like you ever do anything bad. It's like I can do this is pretty good, and I can do this is pretty good. Everything is good. So it's very, very positive mind spirit. But at the same time, there are certain goods you can take or certain decisions you can make that are clearly better than others.
Yeah.
But it's a game that just sort of progresses from beginning to end with just goodness. I should mention this is another Uwe Rosenberg game who also was on this list for Agricola. And this is very similar to Agricola. So if you played Agricola, which is probably his most popular game, other than maybe Bonanza, which is pretty well known too. This is I would say his masterpiece. I mean, this is really it's very in line with Agricola, but I think there's a lot more variation in it.
And I would say the fun part of it is you can play it as a single player.
Oh yeah,
so you can go single
Agricola
player
too. Yeah,
and so you really have a chance to try out the game and figure out your different strategies. But then as soon as you introduce a new player, that's all over, right? Like whatever you thought you were going to do before, it changes completely. So you can practice and get the game down, but then once that other player is sitting across from you, it changes the game completely.
Do you like playing one-player board games?
Yes, but yeah, well, I think the first few times just to kind of get the flow of it and make the mistakes by yourself, and then to be able to go to and then to explore it.
I think I'm a little bit the opposite. I want to play the game with people at first, figure out how it works, and then after I get the game under my belt, then play the one-player game and see how far I can get with other people. Get out of the way, right?
Sure. Well, Nick likes to perfect the game. I like to explore the game. That's I think.
I like exploring too.
Right, with the people, and then go perfect it.
All right.
I'd rather just know how to do it and then explore it.
But anyway, this is Uwe Rosenberg's masterpiece game, fantastic, Le Havre.
Absolutely.
Number six is Avalon. And I really could have broken this down into two games because this is really the same game as the Resistance. They're really just different themings. Resistance is like this futuristic spy, government overlord theme. Avalon is the Merlin and Knights of the Round Table kind of theme, King Arthur themed. Really the same game.
Let's not forget the Lady of the Lake.
Lady of the Lake is not in the original Resistance.
Right.
Right.
But she's an Avalon.
She's an Avalon.
She's hot.
But she is hot, but I actually don't like to play with her as far as a game mechanic wise.
Sure, yeah, but the card's pretty.
The card is pretty. We'll give credit to where it's due.
Sure, yeah.
You can get the upgrade cards for Resistance now that basically upgrade it to Avalon for the most part, with all the secret identities. But this is, if you want a party game to play where people are willing to invest a little bit more of themselves, this is probably the smartest party game on this list, at least in terms of replay value and subtlety to it. Every person is going to take a secret identity, and we're all going to pretend to be Knights of the Round Table. It plays up to 10, so that can be quite a few Knights at the Round Table.
Sure.
You need a good table to play this game. And we're all going to pretend to be knights.
And they drank beer at the round table.
They did drink beer at the round table, so there we go. And the catch is some of us actually aren't Knights of the Round Table. Did you hear that, Pat?
Oh, I've heard that.
You've heard
many
that.
times, yes.
And so the game, we're trying to basically try to ferret out who's not a true knight of King Arthur and expose them and fulfill quests with only the truest knights at the round table. And so the whole game is this game of secret identity deduction. If you've played games like Werewolves or Mafia, many of you played these type camp-style games, those are great, but a lot of it just turns into shouting matches, in my opinion. Like, you're a werewolf, right? Or, you're in the Mafia, I know you are, right? And it just turns into this fiasco, which is great fun and certainly enjoyable. But if you wanted actually a more systemic, like voting style, party game, in that secret identity kind of game that's really tense, this is the one you need to have. I mean,
and the part I like about Avalon is obviously there's a group of us that have played this several times, and you get to change your behavior based upon previous games. So, if I was talking a lot last time, and they're like, "Oh, well, you must be must be Mordor," or no, not Mordor. It's
there's Morgana.
Morgana, an evil person. Then, well, if I'm an evil person again, maybe I'll be a little more quiet this time, and I get to change my demeanor, and you really try to look for those little nuances. Well, why did this person just say that? And they wouldn't normally say that unless they're good or unless they're evil. You have a little bit of insight if you're certain players of the game, and so it really does change it up a lot. Even though you're playing with the same people, it's a good game to play multiple times with the same people. Even if you become the same character, it really is fun. It really is fun.
I mean, this game, I play Ultimate Frisbee usually on Sundays when the weather's nice, and we've got a game group that we play after where we just go and play. And for the most part, this is the game we've played the most number of times. We'll play this usually like 2 or 3 times every week at least on average. And every time it gets more involved. And again, your personality comes out and how you played up to your personality or play down your personality. It's just fun. I mean, there's not a lot of other words to describe it. I mean, there's a little bit of deduction, a little bit of logic, but it's really about playing with the people you're playing with, which is, probably one of the best styles of game.
Absolutely.
Number 7, Avalon. For Sale. This is a game about real estate. Does that sound exciting?
Not really to me.
Not really, right? And actually, I bought this game for Pat a while ago, and sort of as a gift. And I knew if I described it, he probably wouldn't be excited by it.
Not at all.
But I sort of forced it on him.
Sure.
And basically, there's 2 phases of the game. You buy a bunch of houses and you sell a bunch of houses. Does that sound exciting yet, Pat?
Boring.
But is it boring?
Oh my God! It is the most fabulous game. Looking down at the list, I would probably have to say that. Yeah. Well, for me, it's it's the game that goes with me every place I go. It's in the car all the time. I was just at a music festival, brought it along, played with kids from the age of 9 until my mom in her 60s. Everyone's able to play the game. It's not a complicated game, but it's an incredibly strategic game that you can make as complicated as you want, and you can
teach it in a minute.
Oh, right? In a minute.
The strategy is so deep, and yet it's a minute.
Yeah.
Just here's what I can do. Bid on this. If you don't want that house, put some money in the pot.
Yeah. Two rules really.
Yeah.
Either take the lowest card or outbid the person before you. Fabulous game. I mean, so simple. But we played it. We were playing poker when you did bring it over.
Yeah.
There was eight guys sitting around a table playing poker, and then took a break, played this game for another 3 hours. I mean, didn't stop playing.
And these are hardcore poker players. Like, they came over to play poker, right?
Yeah.
And then just showed them this, and they're like, all right, we got to go again.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to go again.
Yeah. So it's completely a game that is so simple, and it's that second to last card where you're like, what do I do? And you're going to win the game.
Do I sell the big house? Do I sell the crappy house? What do I sell?
It's
and it plays fast. I mean, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, 15 minutes is all you need. You can. I mean,
well, you need 3 hours because you'll play 8 or 10 games.
I think we played closer to 15.
Yeah.
I mean, that night.
Yeah.
Over 3 hours, so that's pretty good.
So,
really subtle, really deep, a lot of replay value, and so simple to teach. I mean, this is one of the most perfect games you can have. It's a little bit difficult to find, surprisingly. I was on the lookout for it for last holiday season. I was actually going to buy it for everyone I know, just so every time I went over to their house, they would have it, and I could not find it for them. So. Yeah, I mean, Card Kingdom stocks it pretty regularly, but every time I go in, I actually usually just buy it out because I know someone who wants it, and I'll just buy it for them, and they're out again, right? So it's anyway, For Sale. This is fantastic. Take it everywhere you go. It really could be a number 1 game on this list. If this was more of a casual game list and didn't want to get into heavier games,
right? Yeah,
this would be number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. For Sale.
Number 4 is called King's Forge, and even the most experienced board gamers who are watching this video probably haven't heard of this game. I think that's fair to say.
Very fair to say.
Because, quite frankly, and this is completely biased, and I probably don't have I'm probably not allowed to give an opinion on this due to my relationship with the game, because I am the game designer.
Hey, Nick is the game designer.
So it is my number 4 game, but let me tell you a little bit about it. In this game, players play as medieval Renaissance blacksmiths who are just sort of getting by in life, and the king's blacksmith has just died, and he's looking for a new blacksmith. And so the king has published this list of items, which changes every game, and the players are all vying to become the new king's blacksmith by crafting more of his favorite items than anyone else. It's really a dice game. I would say a dice worker placement game, sort of in the spirit of Alien Frontiers. I'll say a couple very noticeable differences that make this game faster and more exciting, really, is what it comes down to. But it's going to be on Kickstarter for the entire month of August, so this video will probably be up right before then. You'll be able to watch those videos and go to that page. Just look for King's Forge on Kickstarter, and we'll have lots of extra content there. But here's what as far as things I really like about the game. Number 1, it's surprisingly strategic. I mean, you've got a big pile of dice in front of you, and there is this luck element, but there's so many cards that change the dice in front of you, and needing to have the right material, the right color die at the right time is so valuable and so important.
Well, it's a super fun game. All my family will be getting this game, and friends, because it's going to be one of those games like For Sale, which is not incredibly complicated to play the game, but the strategy is deep. So.
And it comes with 100 dice, Pat. You
Yeah.
get to roll these big fistfuls of dice to see if you win, right?
Well, about those glass dice that keep shattering.
Oh, we can't talk about that yet.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Secret's coming.
That's for future. That didn't happen. Anyway, I know it's completely biased, but it really is awesome. I hope that you do check it out. Number 4, King's Forge.
Oh,
Is this your number 1 game, Pat?
dude. Yeah. It's my number 1 game.
Number 3 is Eclipse, which we've already mentioned. I've actually watched, so here, let me tell you about the game first of all. This is what you call a 4X space game. 4X is a common abbreviation for explore, exterminate, expand, and exploit, I think is the 4. It was really made popular by a computer game called Civilization, made by Sid Meier. If you've played a lot of computer games, you've probably heard of Civilization at one point. So this is very much in the spirit of Civilization, except it takes place in space. It's also, for, I would say, a board game, a amazing collection of complexity in a very small amount of space, right?
Yeah.
There's so much in this game. I mean, it's a pretty big box, so you can see it does have a lot of physically stuff in it, but computers can simulate lots of different things happening all at the same time. Board, you actually have to physically manually do everything, and this game does it so effectively, so efficiently, so effectively. It's just a dream to play. It's a huge, expansive game, and it's really compact. I wouldn't call it bite size. I mean, it's definitely bigger than bite size, but a manageable amount in terms of cardboard.
Yeah. Have not tired of playing this game. It's also available on the iPad. Not for me, again, not so much fun playing against a computer because you can beat them and it's fine. But playing against other people, it takes a while to set up. It takes a while to break down. All of those are part of the game experience for me. I think that just this idea of going in and creating this new world and to be a different player each time, or just
and you really are exploring this world too, right? It's different every time you play, with different technology and different planets and different systems.
And you really have to be on your toes the entire time playing it. But I'm almost caught for words because my brain's going, oh, I'm in Eclipse world right now, and it's phenomenal. And like I said, even just breaking down the game, I'm glad that we have to put all those pieces together, because usually it's just one of those points where, like, what were you thinking why did you fly over there and do that? And that was, and you just get to do a game analysis after it. There's so many times where it was just that one thing that you would have done differently. And it's amazing how close the games are.
Yeah. Really well balanced.
Really well balanced. Yeah. It's you can. Oh, don't get me wrong. You can completely blow the game and open yourself up and get destroyed. But if you are doing the best moves every time, and there's usually
well, it's not always clear what the best move is either, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's so hard to tell.
It is. But that's what's so brilliant about it. You can play it 12 times, 13 times, 15 times, 20 times, and then that 21st time you're like, I have no idea what to do.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to break open this box just for a moment to tell you a couple of the reasons why you should love this game as much as we do. Number 1, we're on the bottom, of course. Right, so it comes with a whole bunch of these alien races you can see here. So here's like an alien race card. And this is actually what you play in front of you, and then you have the world out beyond that. This keeps track of everything in your empire. So like if you're playing a game of Civilization on your computer, right, this will tell you how much money you're getting each round, how many materials, and how much science and all that stuff. But the really exciting part for a lot of people comes up here, where you actually design your own spaceships.
Yeah.
And in the game, that's a lot of fun for me, for sure, right? Is building different size spaceships, and you can see they have some blanks. Some of them already have parts installed, but they also have blank spots, and you can replace parts that are installed and add your own guns, add your own shields, add your own armor. So not only are you exploring this world, managing your own resources, building your own empire, you're also designing the actual craft you fight with, right? You take on other players.
That's right. And it's as simply as just looking over and looking at what someone else is doing, and then going, oh, they got +3. Well, I'm going to go to -6. Right, one of those parts of the game where you need to be actually knowing what each player is doing at the time. You might actually not get into a place where you're combating them up until there's 9 rounds. You might not actually be able to get to them until the 7th round, but you better be ready for their ships when you see them in round 7, 8, or 9. So,
and a lot of people. All right, so I'm actually address some. A lot of people have reviewed this game on YouTube. You can go look at other, Eclipse reviews, and I'm going to address a few of them. Some of their complaints about this game, because I think most of the reviewers all liked it. The general feedback was this is a good game for sure. But the fact that it went up to number 5 on Board Game Geek so quickly, I think I kind of upset a lot of them, right? Because they're like, no, it's not number 5 good, right? I think it is number 1.
Yeah.
But what their usual complaints are twofold. Number 1, they feel like too much of the game is kind of like a Cold War, where you sit and you sit in your own little turtle for a while, and then eventually some giant battle will break out right at the end. But too much of the game is sort of spent in that building, political, manipulating. Really subtle kind of time period of the game.
That's the beautiful part.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I mean, if you don't like that, this isn't your game.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't want all that subtlety, like, oh, he's building his ships this way, or he went after that system, therefore leaving this back door open over here, and moving your ships over here, getting ready for a counter strike. That's all like management stuff that is really exciting if you enjoy it. And if you just want to go out and just fight, that's not 8/9 of the game is not going to be that for you.
That's right.
The second complaint that I just want to address is that it feels too much like a Euro game, right? It has too much resource management, not enough just going out and fighting, just in general, which is kind of the same complaint, of course, but or not enough theme, I guess. They don't feel like they're in space enough, which I don't buy at all. I think this is great.
Yeah.
Most of those people, however, are also usually big fans of Twilight Imperium, which does a lot of that same 4X thing, but also takes 8 or 9 hours to play. So if you only have 2 or 3 hours, you're not going to play Twilight Imperium, and you're going to get, however, you will get a very satisfied experience from playing this in that time frame. So those people who say this game is not good enough to be, ranked number 5 all-time board game on the list or whatever have you, they're just wrong. This is an awesome game. I mean, there's no doubt.
No doubt.
Number 3, Eclipse.
And number 2, Dominion. Clearly there have been a few expansions since the original one came out. There's Nick behind them, and I don't even think we can actually get we do have the top box. Do we have the bottom box? Yes, we do.
I think you can see them all on camera, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
But it is the last one. They're done, supposedly.
They're
done.
But they've got suckers like us buying every one of them because we love this game, Dominion.
So we should, here, let me move these. This is just getting annoying. Here, put them in front of you. All right, there we go. So if you don't know, Dominion is an extraordinarily well-selling game, very popular. This is sort of the quintessential deck building game. If you've never heard that term before, basically these are games that are sort of inspired by games like Magic the Gathering, from 20 years ago, where players build a deck and then fight each other with it. You build a deck of cards out of some rare, some uncommon, whatever. You put it together and fight. This takes it a step further in the sense that instead of having a collector kind of mentality where you're getting all these different cards and trying to build a deck, you put out the same set of cards for everybody, and the game is actually building your deck. That's the game, which is I would say incredibly revolutionary, and now there's a huge number of games. Actually, I just play tested a new one that hasn't found a publisher yet this weekend, but Marvel has one for its superheroes. There's the DC Batman one, I guess it has all DC characters. There's one called Thunderstone, which is, I would say, not quite as popular as Dominion, but very popular indeed, and a lot of people prefer that one, though I don't. There's the Penny Arcade one. If you guys read Penny Arcade comics online, they have their own deck building game.
Well, what's the coin one that was similar to this? A little bit different, where you reach into the bag and
Puzzle Strike. Puzzle Strike, which actually is probably, as far as deck building, is probably my number 2 actually.
Yeah.
There's literally a bajillion of these things. This whole new idea of taking all these cards that do something and building a deck of cards that then you play with as the game. So like you buy this card and that goes and shuffles into your deck, and then you use that to buy more cards later on. You sort of build these little engines. It's taken off as a huge new genre. I mean, it really is a new genre that this game invented, Dominion. If that doesn't sound exciting, you probably haven't played Magic the Gathering before, and not that I've played this game in many years, really. I think games like that where you customize and build your own game to play every time. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, for me, Settlers of Catan, which is not we haven't talked about, but that was the game, the Euro game that got me playing board games after Risk. And I'm like, oh wow, Risk isn't the last game that I ever have to play. And so was introduced to Settlers, loved that game, and then got this game, and I've got several friends now that are cursing my name because now they have to buy all of these sets. But each one is worth it. It's wonderful to have on your phone or some type of computer to pick out the game that you're going to play.
You mean the app that chooses what game setup? Yeah.
Because there's only 10. You just pick 10 of these cards,
and each of these boxes will have a couple hundred cards in it, right?
Yeah,
so I mean,
sure.
you just pick 10 sets of them, and that's the game you're gonna play with. So like infinite variations, right? I mean,
and So right when you think you figure this game out, a new expansion will come out that we have yet to play.
Not anymore.
But we haven't played this one yet. So how will these cards impact the rest of these cards? We've yet to find out.
Yeah. Again, this is a pretty amazing game just because of the replay value. More than anything else, you're going to be playing with a completely different game every time you play it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's number 2. People who like other deck building games usually want a little more theme, like Thunderstone. People want to go on quests and kill monsters. You're not going to do that in this game. You're really just building a little machine, like a little village that will do various things for you. But man, this is super clean, super fast, and pretty easy to teach too. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. I mean, because once you get the dynamic of the game down, or the mechanics of the game down, then the dynamic is the cards and how do they interact with one another. A card that you might never purchase in one game is going to be the one card that everyone purchases first in the next game.
That's right.
And so it's not that there's a bad card in this set. It's a matter of what is the game that you're playing and how do you break that down. And as experienced players, we might miss an obvious
synergy
combo between the cards until someone else starts doing it and you're like, oh no, and now you're behind, right? So how do you catch up? Do you follow their path, or do you try to find another combination that will end around and get in front of them? So it's a super
neat game.
Yeah, super.
You don't need to buy all these boxes if you want to get in Dominion. Just buy one, or find a friend who has one. You probably do if you like board games already. Again, this is a really well-selling game. A lot of people already have copies of it. Just play the base game for a little while and see if you like it. You can also play it online too.
Yeah, when we only had the base game, we played it for again and again and again and again and again.
It's not boring.
Yeah.
You don't need all the other boxes.
That's right. Yeah, the base game alone kept us busy for months, and then. What was the next one? The first one. Then Intrigue came out, and then it was like, whoa! And then we're back on, right? So
yeah. So
fabulous.
Anyway, number 2, Dominion. All right. So number 1, and this is the part of the list where this is actually my list and not your list.
That's right.
I think this is one of the probably 2 or 3 defining games that really make sure the viewers know this is mine and not you.
That's right.
I think Pat's number 1 would probably be Eclipse, and number 2 would probably be Dominion.
Yep.
And probably that. And what you have number 3?
I would probably say
For Sale or Avalon or
For Sale. I actually might put For Sale above Dominion. I would say my 1 is Eclipse, For Sale, Dominion, and then I would also then go with
Hansa maybe?
No, I prefer Power Grid. I would probably say Power Grid is like number 4.
Okay, that's pretty good. I agree with those. Choices. But nowhere on Pat's list would you find the game of Go.
Because I ain't played it.
You never played it? Yeah, he drinks beer.
I drink beer.
Go is similar to chess in a lot of ways, where it's a 2-player game, abstract strategy game that is generally seen as really only played by smart people. You say that? Chess?
Yeah.
You have to be smart to play chess, right? Or smart, right? To play chess, right? Sure. You want to be seen as smart. And Go is very similar, except that in the Western world, chess is very popular. In the Eastern world, right? China, Korea, Japan, although that East Asian bloc, this is far more popular than chess, right? This is actually, in worldwide, and if you just count the number of people who play it, this is actually way more popular than chess worldwide.
Yep.
But the United States is very, very not well known. And I would say the hobby game specifically has looked at it with suspicion, right? Because it's not bright and colorful. It's a 6,000-year-old game, right? So who's making money, right? I mean, who's marketing it, right? There's a little bit of that. It doesn't seem cool enough. But I'm going to tell you right now, and this is why it's number one, if you want one game to play for the rest of your life, this is it. Because, number one, it is the simplest game, probably the simplest game of all these, actually. I think it's more simple than Zombie Dice, even. Maybe Zombie Dice has one less rule than it. Maybe Zombie Dice comes close, I think. But here, let me tell you the rules. There are basically about 4 of them. Rule number 1, players pick a color and alternate placing stones on the intersection points of a board. So, just like that. Hopefully you can see that in the video. Maybe white will play a stone over here. Maybe black will play a stone over here. This is not a real Go game. Just sort of make, I mean, you can do this. I mean, it is a real Go game in the sense that that's where we could start. Most Go games don't start like that, though. But, rule number 2 is when your stones, a group of your stones, or a single stone, is completely surrounded, and I'm not sure if this will show up in the video at all or not, but I've just surrounded a white stone right here in this corner. I pull that stone off and it becomes my prisoner. That's my point. I get a point for that. Do you know that?
I knew that.
You knew that?
I knew that.
Okay. If I surround 2 stones, so there are 2 white stones here, and I've completely surrounded them on all 4 intersection sides of them, both of those are my prisoners. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3 is we keep doing this till either one player resigns or both players pass. Both players don't want to put any more stones on the board. And then the 4th rule is once that happens, we count up how many prisoners we've taken, as well as any empty spaces on the board that are left completely surrounded by our stones. And we add that together your score. There's actually a 5th rule called the rule of Ko, but you do not need to know if you don't know anything about Ko. That's just a very special case rule. It basically says no takebacks. But that's the game of Go. So there's basically about 4 rules. And the thing about this game is that, number 1, there's actually more variations that are possible in this game than there are atoms in the known universe. Right? So there's almost like this infinite variability. Number 2, it's one of the few games, I should say, that computers can't yet beat humans at. Right? It almost takes a creative brain to actually play this game. And computers are getting a lot better. We actually, the latest computer program that just came out it actually beat a professional Go player with a pretty massive handicap, though. We had to give the computer a whole bunch of moves before the human would get to move at all. But it did beat the professional player, which is huge news in the Go world, and the artificial intelligence and computer and processing world as well. But basically, top computer Go players can't beat any of the top human players. Like we just can't. Our computers aren't fast enough. We haven't been able to program well enough to do that. There's something about the mind, the human spirit, the creativity that is evoked during the game that makes this game much easier for humans than it does for anything else. It's really our game. 3rd point, this is such a simple game, and it has so much complexity. There's at least it's kind of a saying among Go players that if aliens exist, right, this is the game they're playing too, right? It's such a relevant truth to the universe itself. This basic surrounding capture game, and yet surprisingly so complex and so complicated that. Surely if there's intelligence elsewhere, they're dealing with this problem too. It's still very much an unsolved game. There isn't any dominant strategy yet. There are good things. There are definitely moves we evaluate as good, but we're never really sure 100% if it's actually the correct thing to do at any given time. This is a game that's certainly worthy of your study. It's so simple. They have 4-year-olds playing it all over the place. If you go to China, you can play against kids that will beat you, 10 times in a row. It has a beautiful handicap system. Any 2 Go players of different skills can actually play together just by giving your opponent a number of moves before you get your first move. There's just so many good things about this game. Bad things, I guess, are it's only 2 players, and if you want to be good at it, it's going to take a lot of time. I think that's true for most games, but this one, if you want to be good at it, it's going to take even more time. It really is a game you're going to be learning for the rest of your life, which I think is a plus, but other people may not feel that way. You have any insights or thoughts about this game? I know you haven't played it, but...
Yeah, and I would probably say that the reason I haven't played it is because I think it's one of those things where same thing with contract bridge. If you already are playing it, you want to probably play someone that's either better than you or you're equal. To choose a newbie probably is going to keep that newbie out. And so it would be upon me to go say, okay, I'm going to read a book on it, I'm going to play, I'm going to do all these things, instead of sitting down at a party and playing
Telestrations
or Wits and Wagers,
Telestration,
a game like that where you're bringing people together. And so I think it comes down to then, what is the purpose of a game? Is it for you to mentally improve yourself, or is it to bring you together with a group of people? And I think that Go is one of those games where it's you versus an opponent, but really it's you versus yourself.
Yeah.
Because of the handicap that you can go up against someone, and then now their handicap should make them equal. So you have to have your best game all the time to win.
Yeah, it's really steeped in Buddhist philosophy, and there's a little bit of Taoist themes in there too. It's one that it's a game for me that I probably learned the most psychologically about myself more than any other game here, for sure.
Sure.
Right. This is a game where you learn about yourself, right? And the more you play it, that doesn't stop. The Japanese, actually, the translation, a common translation for Go from literal Japanese is actually hand talk, where it's not a game. It's a form of communication with another person, which I also find really interesting. So anyway, even though it's nowhere close to being Pat's number one, it's definitely my number one game. And I just wish, if anyone who any of these great things I said about the game, if any of that appeals to you, go online and there's lots of how to play Go videos. I actually do a series I'm going to post on the same channel. So if you're finding this video, you're probably already aware of the series of some, I'll say, somewhat semi-advanced Go strategy. It's really for sort of more intermediate players. Do a whole series of how to get better at this game. It's just a wonderful game. I mean, there's no negative emotion associated with this game for me whatsoever. It's just a perfect game where it's just you win the game. So anyway, number one is Go.
Pat's concluding remarks on the top 25. I would probably say that the most important thing about all these games that are sitting here to my left that you can't see, but that we just talked about, was that, to me, gameplay is, I think, an excellent way for you to enjoy yourself with other people. And I think that the reason I love these games, I love playing games, is that it allows you a chance to communicate with people on a different level. The idea of if you make a move like, oh, I want to do that again, what is your own personal idea about that? Sometimes I'm like, hey, can I move this back? Because really, now you've got my worst game. Because and sometimes the table will say, no, just leave it there. You played it, like, okay, I'm good, right? Other times it's like, well, no, we want your best game, Pat. Okay, yeah, I put it down, but I pull it up. And so it's one of those things where it's that give and take. It's that community that's building. It's sitting around a table with hours with friends. So while I think that there is some games that are higher than others, I think they all do that same thing. And I think that if you can find yourself across the table from a friend and you're laughing and giggling about a move, a bad move, a great move, a silly move, that's really what all of this is about, is the idea of play, learning about yourself, and learning about other people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is. We play games to play with people. Otherwise, we just go play computer games or play iPad or whatever, right? So, yeah. I mean, even though I'm definitely of the mindset of, like, I care about the game and the system and the economy, I don't play games because of that necessarily. That keeps me involved in thinking about games. But really, I want to have game nights because I want to have a bunch of people over and drink some beer and play some games.
Here's the beer.
And games.
And games.